Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints are back in New Orleans and back on the practice field tonight. Well, night practice over at Juwan. Sean Fazende, Fox 8, he'll be there. Good enough to join us now. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Hey, before I get to tonight, let me just go back to 3 weeks out in California. If I asked you one big under-the-umbrella takeaway from your time in California, what would you say it was for the first 3 weeks of Saints camp?
Yeah, look, I've said this a lot, and it was the conditions made it seem like, it was so, beautiful out there in perfect conditions, but make no mistake about it, it was an intense, physical, competitive camp. I mean, they got after it. They had more. Maybe it's just a little bit of recency bias, but it just felt like they had more padded practices go for 2.5 hours than I can remember of any training camp, at least in the last, call it, 8 to 10 years. So I thought overall, just from a purely kind of mechanical standpoint of the operation of training camp, I thought it was about as good as you could possibly imagine. I thought it was a very, very physical camp. That's probably not being discussed enough. It was a very physical camp.
What are you expecting tonight?
A lot of fans. They'll go for about 2 hours. I don't know if they're going to be in full pads tonight. I haven't heard anything about that. But this is generally, they've done this a couple of years now, usually a pretty good response from the fan base here. They come out, check it out for a nightcap here from 7 to 9. So, and this is their first practice back, obviously, from the game, their first practice back here in New Orleans. 2 hours scheduled instead of the 2.5 gauntlets that we've been going through in California. So it should be a pretty decent night.
What's the schedule like for the rest of the week, Sean, as they kind of build toward the final preseason game?
Yeah, they got a couple practices at the training facility Wednesday and Thursday, and then they have the final public practice Friday from 1 to 3 at the Superdome. Get accustomed to the new turf being put in there at the Superdome, and it's the same time as the Sunday game from 1 to 3. They'll obviously have off on Saturday and do the walkthroughs or whatever they do, night before a game. But so a couple of more practices. And then the big practice Friday at the Superdome, and then obviously close out the preseason against Tennessee Sunday inside the Dome.
Hey, it's interesting we have you on because I'm not even sure if you saw this, but I would assume you did. I know you tweeted earlier today about Juwan Johnson, but we have all the corresponding moves. There was 3 roster moves today, so they've activated Juwan Johnson off of PUP. And signed cornerback Juwan Williams and waived injured center Sincere Haynesworth. That's obviously a bummer for the Tulane product there in New Orleans. The big news there, though, is Juwan Johnson. Reaction to them activating him off of PUP?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think he's someone they're counting on. I think it's someone that they need. I think it was a little frustrating to see him not being ready to go for training camp really the entire time we were in California. But, as I watch that offense, I'm sure you watch a lot of it as well. As much as I like some of the things they're doing, I think from a personnel standpoint, they're short a playmaker. And I don't know if he's the answer to that sort of playmaker answer to that question, but I do think they need another playmaker that can, do something with the ball in his hand. I just don't know from a personnel standpoint they have quite the firepower yet. So hopefully he can be the answer and to go look elsewhere. But I think it's huge to get him back, get him acclimated to the system because you've seen the system. You've seen what they've done. I mean, they need some help, particularly at that position. I mean, Dalvin Holker got injured pregame. So you're talking about really thin numbers in that group. And a lot of those guys are undrafted guys. Well, you have Foster Moreau, who's obviously a guy that has a certain style when it comes to tight end. Jason does everything. I like Holker a lot. I think he's going to make the team and play a lot, but he's still an undrafted rookie. So I think they need some help at that position. So to get Juwan back, I think is huge.
Is it realistic to think Juwan Johnson will play week 1, considering how short a timetable this will be?
That'll be about, a 2.5 weeks, call it something like that. It really just depends on how much he progresses at camp or at the next few practices. I think it's in the realm of possibility. I don't know if it's a slam dunk. I do know they want him to play. And I do know that they had always sort of targeted week 1 as the date for him to get back. It's just a matter of how well he sort of, responds to the foot injury and the foot healing as he gets back on, the turf and gets running again. So I think it's up in the air. I think there's an outside chance, but I also think at some point, even if it's not week 1, will be fairly soon in the season.
Sean Fazende, Fox 8 is with us. Saints practice tonight at Ullman. Be pretty cool, man. That's always cool to see the pictures and the videos come out of that nighttime practice there at Tulane. Hey, Juwan Johnson being activated off of PUP is obviously good news. The other good news, I know earlier today Jordan Schultz reported, I'm not sure if others have, Sean, or if you have an update, but it sounds like it's good news on Kool-Aid, and the report was that he could even be trending toward being available in week 1.
Yeah.
Kind of, if you would, unpack what this means for the cornerback room with Lattimore still being injured and everything that's going on there.
Well, I mean, you saw the corresponding transaction today with the cornerback that was signed. I don't have enough bodies to practice here right now. You don't have a Debo, you don't have Lattimore, now you don't have Kool-Aid, which is certainly great news that he'll be back, or at least it looks like they'll be back for week 1. And it should be said, DA said that right after the game, that it looks like they avoided major catastrophe there, but that's a little bit open ended. You don't know when that means in terms of the timeline. So that's certainly good news. But in the meantime, how you practice? You need some guys out here. So that's certainly something to watch just when it comes to practice reps and who's getting what in certain situations. Maybe it opens up an opportunity for some other guys. A guy like Rico Payton, a guy like Rajon Wright. I mean, they've all done decent things in preseason games, so they could get some first team reps out here. I think Alontae Taylor has been the one constant because he's been available the whole time. But that cornerback room, when they're all healthy, should shape up to be probably the strongest, deepest unit on the team.
It's a mouthful, but it's true. I mean, the way Kool-Aid's played, if he's healthy, as they enter this final week of the preseason, Sean, who are the players or maybe the positions that, when we talk about the roster bubble, have the most to gain, lose, or the most intriguing this week?
Yeah, that's interesting because there's always the position group that has the numbers. So I still look at that second tier offensive lineman, which it should be said, every team in the NFL is short on backup linemen. That's just there aren't enough quality offensive linemen going around. But I do think that's an issue the Saints need to certainly pay attention to. At running back, it really just depends on how they truly view Kendre Miller. If he's a guarantee or a lock to be on the roster, maybe that position's a little easy. But if not, then what do? I mean, you got some guys that have really been, working it out here. Now, look, they haven't been great, but they've had some moments, and it really just depends on is Kendre a shoe-in or not? Because if he's not, then you've got more questions there. And look, I alluded to it earlier. Another playmaker. To me, I still think you need some help at receiver. I mean, I still think you need help at receiver. I don't think this team truly has. They can all do it, but it truly has a guy. Like, the number one thing on their scouting report is run after catch. I don't know if they have that guy. And this offense, that's what it's predicated on. So I do think there's a chance that you could possibly see some movement there. So those would be the areas I would look at: that offensive line, the running back position, and then can anyone kind of step up in that wide receiver room to be wide receiver 3, 4, and 5.
What do you think about the specialists?
I think it's up in the air.
Okay.
I thought up until Sunday that Headley was far ahead in the punter battle. He's in the lead, but he didn't play well Sunday. Groupie's a guy, that position probably didn't need to be that competition probably didn't need to be as close as it's been, but I still think you lean towards the incumbent there. Charlie Smith's a great story, but hadn't played an NFL game yet. I think that's a little dicey. So I think he helped himself Sunday. Groupie did. So I think it's, I don't know if you call it settled, but that's where I would lean with those two guys right now.
Sean Fazende, Fox 8 there in New Orleans. Saints on the practice field tonight at Ullman here in about 90 minutes from right now. We appreciate it as always, man. Welcome home. Thanks for the time.
All right, bud. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.